Hey everyone, it's Brittany, and we are back with our weekly Avalanche report with my friend Ethan with CAIC. And we are going to jump into, of course, all things Avalanche, and you have lots of updates for us. So, Ethan, let's go ahead and start with kind of what you saw this last weekend, kind of a few things that you noticed, what was happening. You actually have some news for us as well, a little bit of devastating news, but let's go ahead and jump into a little bit of what you saw this last weekend, and we can go from there.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. Well, we came out of this really pretty long, stormy period that encompassed, the Martin Luther King Day weekend, and then kind of ran into the next week. And we saw just a huge amount of avalanche activity during that period, a lot of natural avalanches. And then as we got into this last weekend in the early part of this week, the weather sort of let off a little bit. And so the amount of natural avalanche activity that we've been seeing has really started to drop off. It hasn't completely gone away yet, but it's really dropping off quickly. But we've started seeing more human-triggered avalanches. And then also we've started to see some of the largest avalanches that we've seen all year just over the last 5 days.
Wow. And when you talk about those largest, like those avalanches, the largest ones that you've seen all year, kind of, I guess, how do you decide the massiveness of those avalanches, right? Kind of what goes into those kind of, I don't know, the research of it, or kind of just describe that moment for me of how you decide that.
Well, we have a couple different scales that we use to rank them. The one that we most often use looks at like how much damage an avalanche could take. So it's just a simple 1 through 5 scale. One being so small that it's not going to injure a person unless it like pushes them into a gully or over a cliff or something like that. And then the largest ones are big enough to gouge the terrain, destroy a small village. So most of the avalanches we've seen this year up until about 2 weeks ago were in that smallest category. So, pretty small slides. They've been growing again over, that big stormy period. And we started to see avalanches that are big enough to destroy vehicles and timber structures just over this last weekend.
Speaking of some scary stuff, we did have an accident over, you said, the last couple of days or a day or so ago. Would you mind speaking a little bit about that, kind of what happened and kind of some things that people can look out for if they're looking to, maybe check out the Backcountry later on this week or weekend? Let's talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So unfortunately, we had, like you said, the first person in Colorado was killed in an avalanche for this year. On average, 6 people die in avalanches each year in Colorado. So it's nice that we made it this far, but of course, tragic that we had this accident on Monday. This was a solo snowboarder, so it was a person doing backcountry snowboarding by themselves near the town of Ophir, which is very close to Telluride. And they were caught again in a fairly small avalanche, but it pushed them through some trees. They sustained some injuries, and unfortunately, they did not survive that accident.
Yes, very scary stuff, and we hate to hear that, but we still do have some weekends coming up where people are gonna, want to get out there and enjoy the snow, the powder, and enjoy their winters. And what are some tidbits that you have maybe for this weekend or going into next week for people to take some precautions? What are you thinking for this upcoming weekend if people want to go out and enjoy the backcountry?
So this weekend, it looks like the weather's going to be pretty nice. So it's going to be a great time to get out into the backcountry. But you do need to be thinking about avalanches and make sure that avalanches are part of the plan that you're making for the weekend. The best thing to do is to check the avalanche forecast, colorado.gov/avalanche. That forecast will tell you where those hazardous areas are, both in terms of what part of the state, but also which slopes, elevations, what sort of things you should be looking for, and what sort of areas you should be avoiding. So check the forecast, make sure you have good knowledge about the current conditions before you make a plan to go into the backcountry. If you're not sure about some of that information in the forecast, we have a bunch of places you can learn, videos you can watch, tutorials on our website to help you kind of apply that information. So make sure you have some training so you can apply that information. And if you are going into avalanche terrain, make sure everybody has rescue equipment, an avalanche rescue transceiver, a propel, and a shovel. Of course, if all of that sounds really overwhelming, Colorado's full of good guide services. So reach out to one of the local guides and talk to them about what they're seeing in the backcountry, and maybe sign up for a tour where you're going out with them.
Yeah, that's a great little tidbit there. So thank you so much, Ethan, for jumping on here and giving us our weekly update. It was a pleasure chatting with you, and we always love the knowledge that you bring. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and have a great weekend out there.